Hello, I'm Fitzwilliam Fitzgerald, and welcome to Can You Guess the Number? Today we have Jim. Hey Jim, how's it going? I don't care. Let's go right up to our first problem. Even plus even will equal... even? Correct, for $3,000. Now we're moving on to our next question. Odd plus odd equals... even? Correct, for $6,000. And now we move on to the final round, the $1 million question. Even minus odd equals... I never did minus before. Come on, Jim. Don't let your family down. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4.
Oh no! We've got to help Jim. How do I figure out if the difference is going to be even or odd? Today on Teaching with Mr. H4. Hey there, math extraordinaire. It's me, Mr. Hernandez, aka Mr. H4, aka Mr. How You Doing? And today we're going to go over predicting if the difference is going to be even or odd. And I think this is going to be so cool. And if you need some help figuring out if the sum of two numbers is going to be even or odd, I would suggest watching the other videos on my channel. And if not, let's move on to finding if the difference will be even or odd. So let's go. That way. As always, before we start, let's start thinking about some definitions. And I'm going to be using these words as we talk, and maybe not really use these words, put them into a little bit more simpler terms. So every time we subtract, we have a minuend, a subtrahend, and the difference. The minuend is the part that you start with. The subtrahend is the part being taken away, and the difference is going to be the space between two numbers or the amount left over. For example, if I have the number sentence 53 minus 27 equals 26, 53 is going to be the minuend because that's the number we are starting with. 27 is going to be the subtrahend because that's the part that's being taken away. And finally, 26 equals the difference because it's the space between those two numbers, or when I have 53 and I take away 27, it's the amount that's going to be left over. For some of our visual learners, anything that's a minuend is in red, anything that's in the subtrahend is green, anything that's the difference is D. So I like to think of the minuend as this big loaf of bread, because I'm hungry. And because we have this big loaf of bread, what's going to happen is I eat some of the bread. Some of the bread being our subtrahend. So the minuend is this big loaf of bread, and the subtrahend is this green part, is this part that's being taken away. After I eat that part, I'm going to have this small chunk left, or it could be big. I'm just going to have something that's left. So after I have this big altogether piece of bread, when I cut it, whatever I cut is going to be the subtrahend, and what's left is going to be the difference. As you can see, the difference and the subtrahend together will equal the big loaf of bread. So if I wanted to get back to the beginning, whatever I have left, I'm going to have to add on the thing that was taken away. So that's why minuend minus subtrahend equals difference. I can also write it as difference plus subtrahend equals minuend. Now, this concept is going to be very important when we're trying to predict if a number is going to be even or odd. based off of minuend and the subtrahend to see if the difference is going to be even or odd. This concept is going to be very important. So take some time, review this, and we'll be right back.
And here's another PSA. Your differences make you beautiful.
Before we really dive into predicting if a difference is going to be even or odd, I kind of want to get more in depth into this relationship between the numbers that we have. So I have this question. How do you find the difference between 55 and 24? So 55 minus 24 equals the difference. Based off our definitions in the beginning, 55 is the minuend. It's the big loaf of bread. And 24 is the amount of bread that we're taking out. I can look at subtraction in two different ways. One way I can look at subtraction is by asking myself the question, what's left? So if I have 55, I'm going to remove 24. So I see 55, I take away 20 equals 35, I take away 4, I have 31. So the answer equals 31. So I had this big loaf of bread that's 55, and I removed 24 from it, and now what I have left is going to be 31. In order to get back to 55, the minuend, the big number, I'm going to have to take 31 and add 24 back to it to get to 55. Another way that we can look at the difference and subtraction is by using a strategy of adding up, or finding the space in between two numbers. What I just discussed of how we get back to the minuend is exactly how we figure this out. So if I have 24, that's the amount that's being taken away. In order to get back to my big number, 55, I'm going to have to add another number to it. So it's essentially asking, what is that number? If I have 24 and I want to get up to 55, what is that space in between going to be? The space in between is reflected over here. 24 plus 6 is 30. 30 plus 20 is 50. 50 plus 5 equals 55. 6 plus 5 is 11. 11 plus 20 is going to be 31. So I end up getting the same exact answer as I would with removing. And this is just a great way to double check. But this is a good way to understand the relationship between these two numbers. 55 is this big loaf of bread. 24 is the amount taken away. And 31 would be the difference. So I can, in order to find the answer 31, I can either start at 55 and remove the 24, or I can start at the 24, add on the 31 in order to get to my big shape of 55. And I just showed it along the lines of a number line up here and the different jumps we can take to get from 24 to 55.
So, what's the difference between an even and an odd number? An odd number? Duh. Everyone knows that.
Now it's time to get down to business and try to make a prediction of what the difference is going to be, if it's going to be even or odd. If I have an even number and I minus an odd number, what is the difference going to be, is the question I'm asking myself. So let me plug in some sample numbers in order to help us with the thinking on how to predict this. So if I have 32, which is an even number, we know an even number is an even number because I can split into two equal groups and there's no leftovers. And I can minus 13, split into two equal groups, there's going to be one leftover. So I have even minus odd equals 32 minus 13 equals, let's try to figure this out, because I'm trying to make a prediction. Of course, I can solve it. I can use one of the two strategies we discussed. I can remove or I can add up. But remember, I can see this in a different way. I can see this as my difference plus my subtrahend equals the minuend. 32 is this big loaf of bread. Inside of my loaf of bread, I'm taking out 13, and the difference is going to be that number right here in the pink. So Another way I can view it is taking this pink, taking my 13, putting those two together in order to get to 32. Right now, my minuend, the big box, first number is even. My subtrahend, the second number being taken out, is odd. So in order to get to the minuend, the number I started with, this 32, this big loaf of bread, I need to add the difference, which is this pink box, to the subtrahend, which is this red box. So if I have a question mark plus 13, an unknown plus 13, and that equals 32, I have an unknown plus an odd number that's going to equal an even number. So I ask myself the question, what kind of number plus an odd number is going to equal an even number? Well, that's pretty simple since I've watched all these other videos and I understand even plus even, odd plus odd, because odd plus odd is going to equal an even number. One leftover plus one leftover, we're going to make a pair, and it's going to be an even number. So even minus odd ends up equaling odd, because this number in the pink is our difference, and that's the number right over here. Even minus odd equals odd. Take a second, rewind, review, think about it a little bit extra. We'll be right back with a sample problem.
A poem. Roses are red, violets are blue, an even number can be split in two.
Alrighty, here's your chance. So Jack has 47 beans. 23 beans fell out. Will the number of beans he has left be even or odd? Pause the video right here and try this yourself. How'd it go? How'd it go? So Jack has 47 beans. That's all the beans he has all together. When I think about my loaf of bread, I know we're doing beans now, but I like this bread analogy. We have this big loaf of bread. We have all these beans together, 47 beans. What happens to the 47 beans? 23 of the beans fall out, they're taken away. So my number sentence ends up being 47 minus 23 equals question mark. 47 is the minuend, 23 is the subtrahend, and I'm looking for the difference. So right now I'm seeing an odd number, 47, minus an odd number. And I want to know what the difference is going to be. Is the difference going to be even or odd based on predicting? Well, I know all the things put together, the minuend is going to be 47. What's being taken away is 23. So now I need to figure out what this difference is going to be. So I can write it as this difference plus 23 equals 47. And now my unknown has switched into this addition number sentence. So I have an unknown plus an odd number equals an odd number. Now I ask myself the question, what kind of number plus an odd number will equal an odd number? Well, there's an unknown plus one leftover equals one leftover. If I added a leftover here, I would have two leftovers, and that would equal an even number. So that wouldn't quite make sense. So I'm going to need an even number right over here, no leftovers, to add to this odd number in order to make an odd number. So the difference has to be even. So if I go right back to the start, I'm going to have to put even as the answer. 47 minus 23 equals an even number.
And that's all, folks. And if you liked what you saw, please subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time.